Welcome back to the Webcast Theater. We're back live with another webcast for you. And just wanted to refresh you a little bit. There will be intermissions in between presentations today. We have a series of 3. If you missed the original Shep Hyken conversation with me, you'll definitely want to catch up with it in the webcast archives. This entire afternoon is being recorded and will be available to you here in the Webcast Theater for the next 7 days, and then it will go into the webcast archives. So as long as you've registered for the webcast, you should have access to it. Come back, bring your friends, bring your neighbors, and some great points. I would again like to thank our sponsors for today, SolarWinds, BMC Software, and CA Technologies for making this all possible. If you need help, don't hesitate to click on Help with the Inexpo staff. It's up in the white bar across the top of your screen. You'll see the Help tab there. Take advantage of that if you run into trouble. If you have questions for the presenters, just type it in the questions box at the bottom of your screen and click Submit, and we'll address the questions after we've had the webcast. We have prizes today. We'll be giving away a copy of Micah Solomon's book, High Tech, High Touch Customer Service. We'll be just randomly selecting an attendee. And then also by participating, you will have a chance to win a full registration to HDI's 2015 Conference and Expo. What a lovely, lovely prize that would be to win. It's about $1,600. So you don't want to miss your opportunity to do that. I'll just display those so you can get an idea of what you can win just by showing up. That's not too shabby, is it? That's great. So we're going to get started with our second segment today, and this is sponsored by BMC Software. We're going to feature Michael Pace as the speaker. But first up, we're going to have Aaron Avery, and Aaron is the manager of product marketing for BMC Software. And I'll tell you a little bit about Erin. She joined BMC when Numaro was acquired in 2011, and is focused on developing and influencing the go-to-market strategy for BMC IT service management solutions. She says the best part of her job is working with customers. I second that remark, by the way. I'm constantly amazed by the creative ways organizations employ technology to drive business success while solving pervasive problems and challenges. And prior to joining BMC, Erin held the product marketing roles at Quest Software and NetIQ. She's a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Management from Pennsylvania State, Penn State. We all know Penn State. And so without further ado, I'm going to let you take it away, Erin.
Thanks so much, Roy. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending where you are on the world. I will start by saying at BMC today, orange is the new blue. We have gone through a total company rebrand, and that just launched today. So if you were looking at our logo and going, what the heck is that? That's not the BMC Software look and feel that I'm used to. Well, you know what? Orange is the new blue at BMC. But regardless of our new look and feel, we are still laser-like focused on customer-centric innovation, and I'm so excited to be here today to give the precursor talk to Michael's discussion on social and digital customer service. So at BMC, we're really focused on creating friction-free technology solutions that create a great user experience for both the people in IT and then the people that are using that technology within the organization. And our solutions enable a really fast speed, a high speed, if you will, of innovation so that you can create a fantastic customer experience and new and different applications to support your business and support the growth of your customer base. Furthermore, we provide integrated solutions. So our solutions, we don't just create these great solutions, but we connect them because we recognize that data lives in all parts of your organization, from the mainframe to the cloud to mobile devices, and quite frankly, across the globe. And we really want to, optimize the performance and cost and productivity of your IT organization to support customer-centric, innovative growth. But let's transition away from talking about BMC for a few minutes and give a precursor to Michael's chat on the social digital customer experience. Our perspective is that social is a way of being. It's a mindset. And I can say personally for me, the point in which social stopped being an activity and it started being a way of being for me was when I really changed my mindset, and I came to see social technologies as the fuel for inspired connection. Prior, these technology existed, and I was like, okay, I got to go schedule a tweet on TweetDeck, or I got to go post something on LinkedIn, or I need to like something on Facebook, or I needed to do these things, and it felt a bit like a task. But what really changed it for me was when I started using these technologies, or when my use of these technologies started connecting me with people and organizations in ways that I'd never experienced before, or quite frankly, probably would never have the opportunity to experience if I didn't have these social technologies. It was a great way for me to create connections and relationships, both with other people and, quite frankly, with companies that I did business with. In fact, I submit to you that it increased my loyalty and introduced me to some new companies. So social really became a mindset for me. And quite frankly, the companies that I became inspired to be committed to, I've really furthered my relationship with those companies through my social connection with them. So for organizations, social is a way of being in three perspectives. I've talked a little bit about the mindset that fuels inspired connection. Does your organization employ that mindset? How are you going about putting that mindset in place? Next, do the processes that your organization follows, do they support open communication? Do they support your employees and your staff and your customer service agents, and then the people that your customer service agents have to work with on the back end? Maybe it's somebody in DevOps, maybe it's somebody in the service support organization. Do the processes that you're using, that you're following, support that open, transparent flow of information? And finally, is the technology that your organization using, is that technologically integrating and enabling that flow of information and increasing visibility? I was talking with one of our customers the other day who is making great use of technology to increase visibility, improving their customer service experience, but then also connecting their customer service agents to their back-end DevOps organization that really is responsible for the core availability of their service. At BMC, we recently did a survey of our customers, and we found that about 73%, so nearly three-quarters of our customers, have modern social support technologies in place to connect and collaborate, both with within their organization, to connect their employees and improve collaboration, and then also to connect their employees to their customers. But I submit to you, even if you don't have those technologies or those processes in place, that 100% of your organizations are actually operating in some sort of social way, whether or not you're embracing it as a company or not. So this is a tremendous opportunity for your organization to embrace that mindset, to embrace those processes, and then to modernize your technology. At BMC, we would love to be the vendor that helps you embrace that modern connection with your customers. And in that vein, you can mention me on Twitter, and I would love to connect you with somebody at BMC who can help you understand how our technologies can help you embrace those connections. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move it back to Roy so that Roy can give an introduction of Michael and his great presentation he's going to deliver today on social and digital connections and customer service. Roy, take it away.
Thank you so much, Erin. And orange is the new blue. My goodness. That is orange. That's terrific. Thanks for introducing the brand right here on the webcast. So next up we have Michael Pace. And Mike is previously the Director of Customer Support and Community Management for Constant Contact, and many of us use Constant Contact in our organizations. I know a lot of the HDI local chapters use Constant Contact, and he's at Capital One as well. He's a leader in transforming customer service to exceed the needs of the customer, especially in the new social landscape. Michael is considered to be one of the country's leading speakers and writers on the topic of social media customer service, and he has helped many organizations create scalable, high-quality social support environments and realize the full benefit of customer service, social business, business process management, and people leadership. He's an active member of the board with the Northeast Contact Center Forum, and he posts blogs at thepaceofservice.com. And I first met Mike several years ago at a Voice of the Customer conference, and I immediately appreciated his style and his knowledge. So thanks for being here today, Mike. Take it away.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you. Okay. Yes, so I'm Michael Pace. I'm the principal of my own consultancy, The Pace of Service. Works out well to have a name like that. And so I'll be talking about getting started, getting good, being great at social and digital customer service. Just a quick note, I'm originally from New Jersey, so I may talk fast. You will not be able to see all the massive hand movements of through your computer at this time, but just imagine me waving my hands around incessantly. So we are here today to talk about social and digital service excellence. And this slide just, this is where you can reach me. So you can reach me on Twitter at Mike Pace, just M-I-C Pace, LinkedIn and Google+. I do have a blog. You can text social service to 22828 to join my mailing list. And I do have my SlideShare site, which this presentation, a version of it, is already up on the site. I'm going to actually put this particular version on the site a little later on. Okay. All right. So I'm going to jump into things and kind of give you a little bit of just a session agenda. What are we going to accomplish today? So I always believe in starting with why. So why do we need to invest here? Odds are, if you're one of the viewers of this, or you've signed up for this webinar, you have a pretty good idea of why you need to invest in here. It might be because your boss said go do it, but there's a lot of other great reasons to actually do it. Then I'll give you the 5 steps to develop superior social customer service. We'll talk a little bit about objectives and metrics. One of the big pieces is really about who do we staff this with and how do we staff this with. So we'll talk about hiring and people as well. And then we'll have time for the chat and any kind of Q&A you have. Okay. So I'm going to cover all of this in the next 45 minutes. Honestly, there'd actually be no way I could actually cover every single social network out there. I think even this chart was built in 2012, and probably half of these companies don't exist now, and there's probably 3 times more who've joined the list. We'll talk about really the basics of it. So back again to kind of why we're here. So I think everyone knows that there has been, a broader social media shift, but the shift has also taken place, within customer service, customer support, help desk support. A large percentage of consumers, this, from American Express, they were touting that, roughly 29% of people actually prefer online, customer service to speaking to someone on the phone. I know I do. But I also say it's circumstantial, depending on which, what my issue is and how I want to take care of it. If I need a bank balance check, I obviously do it online. But the second there is, an inconsistency with my banking, I'm on the phone and pressing 0 400 times until I get to a person. A lot of people have already actually used social media for customer service, roughly around 62%, whether it's been on Facebook or Twitter or one of their, company's branded community sites or unbranded community sites. And failure to respond has a massive increase in churn rate. If any of you guys are working with a SaaS working for or with a SaaS company now, you really realize that how important churn is, and a 15% increase is incredibly large. Yeah, and then over the last 3 years, the shift is growing, and it's continuing to growing. Whether people are looking for, information through online FAQs, the use of chat has increased, forum usage is up by 9%, and I bet you that one's actually one the areas where it's actually more than 9%, but it's just harder to quantify. Twitter consistently is even still rising. And then even as of Q1 2013, more people are, 30% of people, more people are posting to Facebook. So it's growing. In terms of the front line, and this is just, kind of understand where your growth is going to be. And really what I just want to point out is by, e-services, and that includes sort of all your broader digital customer service areas. So FAQs, communities, social media, online chat, all these are going to be growing by at least 53% over the next year, and they're going to continue to grow and grow and grow. Just some information from a study Amex did, when people, for people who have used social for customer service, they will spend more for excellent service. Folks who have poor service typically don't come back. They used to have that old adage way back when, a great experience, somebody tells, 2 or 3 people, and when they have a poor experience, they tell 13. Those numbers have jumped up dramatically. When people have great experiences, the average person, lets almost 42 people know. And when they have a bad one, it's around 53. And depending on how big your social network is, it could be, even larger. Folks like Roy and Shep, they have a bad experience, they're going to be letting thousands and thousands of people know, and they have a great experience. They're going to be letting, more than that know, because those situations typically get reshared through other means as well. And if you still don't believe, and your bosses still don't believe, and everyone else still doesn't believe, just take a look at your kids. If we could if there was a way to raise your hand on this website, I'd ask you to raise your hand to, see if you're in the, if your, teenage kid is one of the average kids who sends almost 3,000 texts a month, or is taking photos of themselves incessantly on Snapchat and what they're eating, or jumping on Kik to see what's going on, and that doesn't even get into them using the Instagrams, and even they actually still do use Facebook too as well. But half of the world's population is under 30. And if you're under 30, you don't even know what life was like before the internet. It's like trying to explain to my son what a record player is. He doesn't get it. So the conversation is happening. So now what do we do? A little bit back when I was with Constant Contact, really determined what were the 5 steps to success. And the first one is get yourself involved. And we'll talk about that in a minute, but I really want to stress that one. You have to know your business strategy. Listen to your customers. We'll talk about the customer conversation, and we'll talk about capturing and cataloging info. Now, I know if you've listened or been a part of, kind of in the social media bubble for a number of years, all these gurus and ninjas and every other superfluous name, well, first thing they'll always tell you is you got to listen. I'm here to tell you they're all liars. It's not about listening. It's trying to listen. It'd be like me trying to listen to Japanese and figuring it out. If you don't understand the language, you don't understand the tone, you don't understand how it works, it doesn't make any sense, and it's incredibly hard to manage. So from a managerial standpoint, first I'd say get yourself involved. And it really truly is one of those things where, you could read a book on bike safety and how to ride a bike all you want, but until you put your keister on the seat and start pedaling, you really don't understand what it's like to be able to ride a bike until you're actually doing it. In terms of doing it, I always say start with the big 3, and this is a little bit of just general business sense and asking. So if you're on this webinar right now and have not updated your LinkedIn profile with something within the last 30 days, go look at it now. don't leave the webinar, but when you're done with all the webinars today, go to your LinkedIn profile, see what needs to be updated, continue to update it with, news and share information on it. LinkedIn has become, it's bigger than the resume of historical. I can't say how much business I get from LinkedIn for people just either referring me or people, looking for me to, possibly leave my consultancy for other positions through LinkedIn. LinkedIn is how people, will find jobs in the future almost exclusively. I mean, it's happening now. If you are currently unemployed or have been looking for work, odds are if you have found something, it's through a relationship. Facebook, of course. I put Facebook on here just because I'm sure most of you already have a Facebook page and are on it. But from a business sense, I really want you to take a look at brands that you enjoy and see how they interact with their customers on Facebook. I love Dunkin' brands. I think Dunkin' does a fantastic job on Facebook and actually all their social sites, whether it's Instagram or Facebook. They're keeping their customers engaged and up to speed with whether it's contests or fun or what have you. And there's a lot of more technical companies, if they find the right group and they're on Facebook, are able to provide, really great proactive service on it. Oh, and of course, Twitter. I still believe Twitter is the most powerful tool that we have today in terms of information. It's at first it feels like drinking out of the fire hose of information, but once you find your right filters and such, it's an incredible news aggregator, and not just news as in what's going on with the world, but if you are interested in customer service, you can look things up by the hashtag #CusServe, or there's a multitude of other ones. But there's plenty of great information out there. If you want to learn how to do stuff and you want to meet some fantastic people, I still believe Twitter is the way to go. I'm also a huge, huge fan of aggregators and curators. These are just a few. So, you have your typical Hootsuite and TweetDeck, which are owned by, Twitter owns TweetDeck, which can consolidate and let you filter out a lot of the noise and all the garbage and all the selling that's on, the sites today. I'm a huge, huge fan of Flipboard. If you have a tablet or any kind of real mobile device, your phone and such, I think Flipboard is just an absolutely terrific curator of content. Whether you're interested in, things to eat or news or customer service or what have you, you could take your LinkedIn feeds, your Facebook feeds, your Twitter feeds, and all the different news places of the world and get them into Flipbook. And it's a beautifully curated application. You just kind of flip around like you're reading a book. And also a big fan of Feedly, which used to be very similar to Google Reader. Feedly just, basically, it's like a giant vacuum cleaner of blogs. You put the topics that you're interested in, and it pulls them in. Or if you're on a blog and you're reading it and you like it, click on the RSS button and it'll zoom into you. Getting information brought to you how you want it brought to you is incredibly it's important in this day and age, and it's a fantastic way to get yourself involved. Other ways to get yourself involved, you have things like online communities. LinkedIn, HCI has them as well. I think the company called the Community Roundtable, I'm a big, big supporter of what they do. They are basically a community of community managers. So if you're a community manager out there or you're working in social customer support, the folks at the Community Roundtable offer a fantastic service. While I was at Constant Contact, one of the things we built was the socialquickstarter.com, which is a great step-by-step guide on really how to get started on all these different sites and such, and especially for your business. I think HubSpot does a fantastic job on with their blog. Like I mentioned before, you have online chats such as CusServe or CXO, which provide a ton of information. And I'd probably say lastly, if your phone still flips open, it's time to update. Yes, iPhone 6s came out earlier in the month, and Samsung has some amazing things. I'm also actually a big fan of the Windows Phone, surprisingly. But all of them can carry these apps, and there was one point in time where I could basically manage all of Constant Contact's social customer service really just through my iPhone. Step 2, know your business strategy. So there's an old adage, culture eats strategy for breakfast. I saw Shep talking about culture. I'm a huge, huge fan. Everything starts with culture. You have to have the right kind of culture to have social be a part of your company. I was just talking with a company yesterday, and they were talking about how their particular industry was so afraid of customer reviews, and this company was actually able to slide into that space because they weren't afraid of customer reviews in their particular industry. But you have to have the right culture to do it. And culture is important. And it does eat strategy for breakfast, but breakfast is the most important meal of the day, so we do need to make sure we have the right strategy in place to do it. And you really need to understand your broader business strategy. And everything starts with your company's mission and core values. I can't talk more about how your mission and core values will be incorporated into your actual content and social media responses as you go forward. And we'll talk about the voice and the voice of your brand and how important that is. But all that comes from culture and core values. You have to understand why you're doing this. You have to understand how your customer, how your social support or social customer service relates to your individual department strategies. Is it about saving? Is it about cost savings? Is it about the customer experience and raising NPS? Is it about awareness? Is it about proactive service? It depends on what it really is. And then you have to obviously, put those tactics in place. One of the most important pieces on your business strategy here is to understand your customer. So, one of the most important things is understand what's critical to quality for them. If you're a business process manager, a Lean or Six Sigma person, critical to quality is really just what's really important to your customer. Industry best practices by vertical or type of customer. So if you guys are in financial services or working in financial services or insurance or healthcare, you have a lot of your own specific obstacles that you need to move through and go for it. Understand what those are, understand the risk and the governance there. And every single industry has a little bit different type of, whether it be voice or type of message or things you can include. And then lastly, but maybe most importantly, where are your customers? Where are they socially? You have to understand, are they on Facebook? Are they on Twitter? There's a lot of people's companies, especially I'd probably say B2B. I wouldn't say Twitter is the most important place for them. It might be LinkedIn. It might be community forums. Where are they physically? Are they mobile? Are they at desks? Are they, sitting down? When I talk with people about Twitter strategies, I think people forget that so much of it is about being, those people are being mobile. And then where your customers are mentally. Again, if you work in financial services or banking or something, a lot of times when they're contacting you, they are not in a fantastic place in mind. Their banking may be messed up. Their money may be, in flux somewhere. It's really, really important to understand where they are mentally. And a big piece of also knowing your business strategy is understanding how you want to work with the other areas of your business. It's impossible to do social well in a silo. You have to be, coordinating with your marketing, PR, IT teams, of course your legal, HR, sometimes even general, your accounting teams and such. And if you haven't seen a RACI model before, one of the things I really strongly urge companies to do is actually, RACI stands for Responsible, Accountable, Consulting, and Informative. It's basically an operating agreement between different, for this example, different departments and how they work. You have to be able to understand who will do what and when they'll do what. It's usually the most relevant between you and your marketing departments. I've probably spoken with a huge number of companies where marketing won't give up social for one reason or another, or they want to maintain control of it, or and a lot of it is just the fear of delegating the right things to the right person because they're not sure, if the right competencies are there or the reliability is there. Okay, so now, like I said, I mentioned before, listen to your customers. Number 3, yes, this is not the number 1 thing to do, is to listen to your customers. Yes, you do need to listen to your customers to understand where they are and what kind of frame of mind they're in, but I really want you to make sure you kind of understand where this all fits in with your business strategy. And next time you talk to one of those gurus or ninjas or whatever and they tell you to listen first, you can tell them I told them to shove it. And I'd be happy to. But for them to listen to your customers, there's a couple great tools here. I always say, the first thing I always suggest to folks is, start with if you have a CRM, start with your CRM partner. A lot of times they do have bolt-ons for, your current CRM, whether it's Salesforce and their Radian 6 product. I know they've actually even just changed the name recently, or Oracle and, some of the Right Now products or whomever you use. They may have it. Now, again, a lot of times they don't specialize in social, so there's a lot of other, great applications that you can use like Spreadfast or Shoutlet. I think Lithium has some fantastic new tools. They bought a company in Texas recently that really does social service well. There's a new company that I've been working with a lot called Conversocial that really does a fantastic job of understanding customer service management needs and looking at things like SLAs and such within social. And there's free tools like Nutshell Mail. When you start getting into Argyle Social or Crimson Hexagon, they're a little bit more expensive, but incredible analytical tools there. Step 4 is the customer conversation. I think the right-hand side of the screen is what people are the left-hand side of the screen is what most people are really, really used to, and they see social customer service as a very, very reactive environment. And in a lot of ways it is, but I'm going to tell you there's a lot more to it. But in terms when you get that inbound customer conversation, there's really 4 things I want you to think about. First is know your customer. So when people tweet at you or talk to you on Facebook, it's really, really important to be able to, if you have that customer within your CRM, to be able to go find them. And understand who this person is who's speaking with you, or understand what their peer index is or their cloud score is. And now a lot of times it isn't wholly exact to their level of influence in your area, but it does give you an understanding of the breadth of the customer. The most important thing in social customer service is acknowledgement. I'd say it's probably actually even more important than solving the actual answer some of the times. A lot of times it's really just about, I have an issue, I have a problem, I want someone to hear it because a lot of these other channels are just not working for me. I can't get a hold of somebody, I can't get somebody on the phone. Acknowledgement, whether it's positive or negative, is incredibly important in social. And don't disregard the positive stuff. When people are cheering you on, the best thing you can do is cheer them on to cheer you on. Third piece is about being transparent and human. The last thing people want to hear is some PR garbity-garble that sounds like a robot's talking to you. Be human, be transparent, be who you are. Again, this goes back to your core values and such. And understand whether you want to keep things online, offline, or what I call nearline. Online's pretty obvious, so if somebody's on Twitter and they have a response that you can respond to them easily with, great, keep it online. If you work in financial services or some other regulated industry, you need to take it offline. And then there's a lot of times where I think it's best to take it what I would call nearline. A lot of your companies may already have blogs or even better community sites, community platform sites, which if you have, say, a touchy subject, say maybe your systems went down and people are talking to you about it, if you could throw up a quick blog on your community site or a quick reference on your community site, it could be a different place to point people to have this conversation, that's a little bit, it's not out there in the public as much, but it's definitely available and transparent. And like I mentioned before, the customer conversation is not a one-way street. One of the most amazing things about what social can do for customer service is actually to be able to talk back and have a conversation with them. So it's great if you have either when working with like your marketing or PR departments to be able to make sure customer service questions and thoughts are coming up through them, or if you have your own handles, go out there and ask them questions. I'm a huge, huge fan of providing what I call edutaining content, content that educates the customer, but is also fun. It's a great place also for product systems service updates. If your systems are down, get out there and be proactive and let them know it's down. They're going to figure it out for themselves, or your competition's going to know anyway too. And then leverage any kind of marketing or other support portals you have, whether it's community sites or knowledge bases. Bring in that broader digital perspective to your social sites, and it becomes a great virtuous cycle. Number 4, it's still on number 4, the customer conversation. Probably one of the questions I get more than any other kind of thing, especially from contact center folks, is SLAs. Typically, and I don't mean to offend any of the marketing folks out there, but they don't live in a world of SLAs, but the contact center does. And this is generally what I tell people, and it's not easy, but I do believe it's required. For near real-time services like microblogging sites, like Twitter is really the best example. Where somebody's explaining, having real-time emotions, providing unbiased feedback. I really do believe to provide superior service, you need to be answering them within 1 to 5 minutes. And I know that sounds incredible, but it's really not as hard as you think. And your customers will love you for it. It's a very in-the-moment thing. Think if you're texting what you're doing. If you send somebody a text and they don't respond to you within like 2 minutes, you're like, sending them question marks going, are you going to answer me? Twitter is really very, very similar to that. And any kind of those real-time microblogging sites are just like that. When you have more community-based ones like Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn or your actual own branded community site or even an unbranded community site, it can vary. It could be anywhere from 20 minutes to 3 hours to sometimes even 48 hours, depending on how active the other parts of your community are, and if you always have the opportunity, you always want your community of champions to be able to respond first and stick up for you versus kind of coming from those corporate handles. There's times where I think Facebook's, needs to be within around 20 minutes. But if you got a great community and you got great people as part of your community, you might let it go like for 48 hours. Now, obviously, if the person sounds urgent, respond to them right away. The voice of your brand is incredibly, incredibly important here. I take 2 companies here, both who provide, really superior customer service, Tiffany & Company and Zappos. Both are known for great customer service, but you can't take the same person tweeting at Zappos and put them at Tiffany & Company. It's a completely different voice. Zappos, you could tweet, you are for your. I would never, ever expect that from Tiffany & Company. It's not their brand. It's not their style. If somebody at Tiffany & Company was responding to somebody, to Zappos customers the way they do, it doesn't fit Zappos brand. It's not fun. It's not engaging. So you have to, in most companies, you're going to typically be between Tiffany and Zappos. You just have to understand what your voice is. And I don't want to forget all the other areas, like I mentioned before, of all the other pieces that are really part of digital service, whether it's text, your mobile apps, chat, social, email, your knowledge base, community. The communities seem like the most forgotten. It's like the redheaded stepchild of social. It's an incredibly powerful tool for support organizations, particularly IT support organizations, where a lot of your customers are already on communities, and they can be incredibly interactive, and they can, there's so much breadth and so much types of content that you can actually put out there. Really, in terms of capturing info and cataloging, depending on who and what tools you're using, a lot of them can provide you this information. But if you're really just starting off, keep it simple. Either use your existing CRM or you can use the free, the less expensive or free tools like Hootsuite or TweetDeck or Nutshell Mail or something like that. That's just really simple, really inexpensive. For the first couple of years, I used to put everything into Excel and kind of check our metrics there. I also say focus on the metrics that matter to you and your business. Whether it's how many people are following, or how much things are getting recycled, or even just how many what your support costs that you're saving are. And don't forget, it's a fantastic voice of the customer tool, and it's a great place to provide narratives to executives. If you've ever listened to Frank Eliason talk before, he will go on about how the importance of providing narratives to the executives. Objectives and metrics. I'm going to be quick here. I think there's some basic business metrics, and I'll talk about what engagement really is. But you can identify things like CSAT from your social customers, SLAs, how your connection growth, the production, and I'll talk about learning agendas in just a minute. But in terms of business metrics, I always think of customer lifetime value. In customer lifetime value is about 4 different areas. It's really about acquisition, customer retention, ARPU, which is your average rate of purchase, your average revenue per unit. So, how much do people spend a month or year or what have you, and profitability. And social really hits on all 4 of these areas. I use the example from our community at Constant Contact. Our cost of acquisition was dramatically lower for community members because they referred more people. Our retention rates of community members were more than twice as good as non-community members. They spent more with us. They spent more with us because they were better educated about our product suite and how the products were used. And most of them were incredibly profitable because from a support side, most of our other customers helped them out. And it was incredible in terms of, it was less than 1/10 of the cost of a call. In terms of acquisition retention, I use just some numbers from a while back for Constant Contact. The average tweeter at Constant Contact while I was there had about 1,300 followers. So every time somebody tweeted, 1,300 people heard great or bad type of things. And we used to track both the counts of tweets and the counts of positive and negative tweets, but we also looked at what the peripheral impact of it was. How many people were these people reaching? What were the impressions and such? And all that goes back to your acquisition and retention. Are people enjoying your product and hearing about it? Lowers the cost of your acquisition, and it keeps people staying as well. In terms of average revenue per customer, I think this is all about customer education. And you can create content, and you can curate content, repurpose all the content you have, like blogs and PDFs and guides and community posts and live person seminars and FAQs. Those great content for your social sites to project out for proactive service. In terms of customer profitability, just to give you an idea, cost per interactions if you insource it, your phone calls, an average 10-minute phone call is going to cost you about $12. A Twitter conversation is probably going to cost you about 1/6 of that. That's what we were showing. And if you use a community, your costs might even be nominal. They might even be mostly free. One of the big pieces when I work with companies is, we talk about business metrics and what you want to achieve, but I always make sure they have some type of learning agenda with social. It's still a little bit of the Wild West. And you have to understand, what does this mean? How do you scale this? Do you need 2 people or 20 people or, 100 people doing this? You need to start small and understand it. What is your content management strategy? What type of content are you producing? How are you working with other departments in the company to have content? What are your cross-departmental interactions? What kind of people and how many people do you need and such for this? And what's the right infrastructure for your size business? So leave some space in your objectives to understand where this is going and use it out, keep it out there so people know that it's still, learning for you and learning for most organizations out there. Did I skip something? Nope. Oh, nope, it got reordered, sorry. Just in terms of hiring people, typical transactions today, people are, in person is very one-to-one, and phone is one-to-one, email is one-to-one, chat is one-to-one, but they're all different in different ways, and what you need of, the right agent is different. Email is, clearly written, chat is a bit more personal, immediate responses are critical. Social, same slide, sorry. Social support's a little bit different. You're going to be monitoring in different networks, and please use this if you need a document for your next hire. But you have to monitor a number of different outlets. You need to organize customer inquiries, distribute to other parts of the organization, and partner with those parts of the organization. Facilitate the voice of the customer piece as well. In terms of, finding the qualifications, big fan of excellent writing and phone skills. You have to have a really strong grasp of the structure, purpose, and tone of social networks. A lot of times people say, oh, it's just for the younger generation, have younger folks, on this network. It's not true. It's just more about understanding and having a grasp of the netiquette of social. They need to be able to think quickly, formulate responses, have short turnaround times, be able to communicate on, be professional but personable, be flexible, and probably more than any, one of the other things too is some people are not used to being able to speak, are very comfortable speaking with one person. Some people are not used to speaking to 10,000 at a time. And then probably lastly and most importantly is, I love the term from Chip Bell, is be able to exercise responsible freedom. This is about, taking action in a responsible way that's best for the customer and doing the right thing for your organization and understanding that balance and finding people who are okay and trust you in them taking risks is incredibly, incredibly important in terms of finding the right people. Now, I know I've probably gone on just a little bit long, so I'd be happy to share experiences and any QA that people do have at this time. I'm sorry I was not able to read the group chat while I was speaking, though.
That would be severe multitasking, Mike. Thank you. Thanks very much. Great job. A lot of organizations that have been adapting to social support over the past few years, even doing internal social support, adapting the techniques, using the tools that are available. We find in our research that well over half of support centers do have social tools and technologies. A lot of them are not currently using them to do things like get information from customers as much as they're using it to provide information for their customers, like blogs and SharePoint and that kind of tool.
Yep.
So
we didn't even go into the chatters and the gabbers and all those of the world, which are incredibly powerful internal tools as well.
Right, and if you're doing internal support, Mike, do you think that there's a different texture that the company takes on? Is it does the company absorb some of that culture when you're using social tools?
It's funny, I for some reason feel like internal social tools, people forget that they're social. They just think of them, actually in a lot of ways email is a social tool. But people forget that, that they kind of are out there and that they exist. If there is a wiki that your company uses or SharePoint, they just think of it as a place to put information. Same things with the chatters and gabbers and all the other kind of internal, like Twitter type ones as well. A lot of times they just become For the people who actually understand social, love them. The people who don't get social, don't get them. And a lot of times it has more to do with your change management and how you get people adopting to tools. That more than anything is the most important piece of internal tools, actually.
Right, and that goes with anything really, whether you're using an IT service management tool or whether you're using knowledge management tools or whatever it happens to be. It's the thought and design and definition that goes into that. It's what we were talking about a little bit earlier. The processes defining the use of the tools are what really matters. A fool with a tool is still a fool, right? So
yeah.
That's really important.
Yeah, I'm a big ADKAR fan in terms of change management models. ADKAR stands for awareness, desired, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. And developing broad change management plans is, I think a lot of people focus on the technology and getting the technology right. If they focused even just a tenth more time on the change management, they'd see much better internal adoption rates.
I agree with you there. There are a lot of IT service management, specifically a lot of people in the IT service management world who are confused and frustrated because people have been talking about the value of IT service management for a very long time. And yet organizations don't seem to have adopted many of the processes and practices that good IT service management prescribes or describes in the case of something like ITIL. And I think that organizational change management is really, really important to create that atmosphere because, again, going back to culture eats strategy for breakfast, and I really like your point about breakfast being the most important meal of the day. So that's that driving the change along with what you're trying to introduce is incredibly important. Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm just going to check the questions.
Okay.
And see if there are any questions coming in. If anybody has a question for Mike, please drop it into the Ask a Question box and click Submit, and we'll see it on the back end and be happy to ask Mike. And you can also continue to discuss in the group chat. It's great that you're really taking advantage of that. It's absolutely wonderful. And we'd love to have you participate even more. A lot of folks talking about the specific types of technology that they use. And talking about some of the things that they use for remote support. And I'd love to see some descriptions on there about the types of tools that you use for knowledge management. And if there's anybody specifically using knowledge-centered support, that would be great. We're very interested in that at HDI, so it's way important. Knowledge management is increasingly important, especially in the world of social. And Mike, maybe you can expound on that a little bit. Knowledge has to be shared across the organization in many ways for successful social implementation. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%, 100%. I think most companies are, if you talk about the medium, because I think that's really kind of what you're asking for here is most companies are absolutely inundated with email. I work with a lot of contact centers in the world, and it drives me absolutely crazy when I see how much email is coming to agents and help desk people in terms of remember when this type of customer calls, do this, and when this happens, and here's a new promotion we have, and here's a new thing we have, and there's all this tons of email that's out there, and people think email is easily searchable and sortable, and we all know it's not. And having getting people used to having relying on strong knowledge bases and knowledge management systems is incredibly important, and it's a heck of a lot more scalable than email is.
Right, and certainly it prevents a lot of wheel reinvention. If you're providing a good and robust knowledge system to individuals, and it doesn't just have to be in support. I mean, knowledge management is important across the organization anyway. But in support, where it shows up is that somebody calls with an issue, and technicians or analysts wind up reinventing the wheel because maybe they in particular haven't seen that before, but somebody else has. And if it's not documented, it becomes a wheel reinvention. I used to have a sign outside my office door when I was in the IT department that said, if it's not documented, it's a rumor.
Well, I think, one of we didn't even talk about that, but whether it's external social or internal social, things like communities and knowledge bases, especially if, especially when we're talking about external, and, always make sure that they're, searchable by Google and, your search engines and stuff, because it is durable content. It is stuff that will be out there. It is something that one person or maybe a couple of people create, but it's really it's a one-to-many type of thing. And I even suggest for, the internal, on the internal side, making sure your search functionality is honed in and correct and looking for the right things and such, because again, you can create all the information in the world, but if you can't find it, it's not great. When I managed a knowledge management team, we had something we called the magic formula. And the magic formula was you knew that this information existed, so there was the awareness that the information was out there. You could search for the information, and it was a solid search providing relevant examples, and then the answer was correct. It's an amazing multiplier if you can work on each of those three individual sort of vectors, so if you have people if you have good information in your site and the search is fine, you need to obviously work on your awareness. In the end, that magic problem, that awareness times search times, correct answer leads to scalability and really, really happy customers.
Yeah, I agree with that. And there's if you're an HDI member out there in audience land, you can search on our site on what is LZS. L as in Larry, Z as in zebra, S as in Sam. And there's a terrific article by our Executive Director of Training and Certification, Rick Joslin, that describes Level 0 solvable. And thank you, Megan. And it is just a terrific article that describes what happens if you have a knowledge base that contains customer language. So when they call, they ask about email, they ask about Outlook, they ask about my email, or whatever it happens to be, as opposed to asking for exchange. And a lot of times you have situations like that in the knowledge base where you use an IT language, you might talk about exchange, where the customer may never, ever use that word and might not know even what it is. And so if you have the customer language in it, it makes life a lot easier, because they can find information, and then the analysts can add customer keywords into it and then publish it as self-service, and it works out really well. It's a great article. Highly recommended. Well, thank you again, Mike. I'm really pleased that you were able to do this for us today. It was a very informative presentation, and thank you so much for coming, and it's a pleasure to know you, as always.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
I will see you shortly, I'm sure. And thank you also, Aaron Avery, and thanks to BMC for sponsoring this segment of the webcast.
Absolutely.
So we'll
Thanks
move on
so
now.
much.
We're going to have a brief intermission.
Thank you.
And you're more than welcome, Mike. Thank you. We're going to have a brief intermission. We will circle back here at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Central, 1:30 p.m. Mountain, 12:30 Pacific, and continue the discussion in the group chat. We are going to do a little refresh here on the webcast side of the house, so you may see your screen darken or flicker, and we're going to take care of that, make sure that everything's in tip-top shape for the next section. Please don't miss the next webcast, which is going to be Micah Solomon, coming up in just a bit. And we'll see you soon. Thanks so much for coming today.